Hey, welcome to What's Broken. My newest project, or latest victim, is a little, I think it's a 1988 Johnson 4-horse 2-stroke. It belongs to a friend of a friend, and the information I could get on it was not a bunch. But apparently this friend of a friend had another friend who supposedly did a carb job on it. He's never been able to get it running, so I don't really know much about it. The furthest I got, I pulled the plugs out, got them grounded, and I'll just give it a bit of a pull. Don't know if you can see that, but there's really good spark on both plugs. So that eliminates one issue. I think to get going, I'm going to mount it on my handy little boat motor stand, and then I'll set you up in my tripod, and we'll see what's next. I did notice one little issue with it. The the bottom end housing, whatever you call it, it eludes me at this moment. The prop bearings, etc. This is cracked all the way around. So, but I think I'll see if I can get it running first, and then we'll pop that apart and see if, what sort of repair can be done to it. Maybe some JB weld? Who knows? So I got it in the motor stand. It's got this weird little slide thing. In this position it shows two arrows going clockwise. Then you pull it out. Might have to clean that up. It doesn't really show. Then there's a little thumb screw here. So I don't know if that's like a spark advance or something to do with the ignition. I'll have to see if I can read up on this a bit. Let's see if this, I want to get this air box out of the way. I assume that's maybe the choke. This is an on-off gas valve. I don't know what else is holding it on. Perhaps this pops apart somehow. Yeah, there we go. Well, it looks like there's a wee little set screw in there. Take the set screw right out and see if this will slide off. Yep. Okay. The air box comes off. Like that should pop out. Might have to squeeze the end a bit. Oh, wait. I don't know if this is going to get me anything or not. Yeah, no. Well, got that out of the way anyway. Still have to figure out how to get the bottom off. There we go. Just had to pinch that. Yeah, it still won't help. Somehow this shaft has to come off. Go cut that clamp. And get out my homemade hose pliers. I just bought a set of cheap Power Fist needle nose and heated them up and sort of formed them around a bolt. Because aside from being hard to find, they want like 30 or 40 bucks a pair, so I think I spent $3 on this. Push that back onto the pump. This looks like a little, I don't know what you call them, shear pin or drift pin. And maybe I can get I'll grab a couple of wrenches. And try and get the carb off first. And then I can figure this out after. I don't know if this is metric or... Well, it's a 7/16. Seems to work. Oh, stainless nuts, so they're not magnetic. Gotta dig them out the old way. Huh, okay, that's off. So to get this shaft out, in order to take this front cover off, it's one of those little pins. I don't want to lose that. So that pulled out. Huh, and that pulls out. I think I'll take a couple pictures. So hopefully I can remember what goes where. Yeah, it's still got the ID plate on it, so I think I'll look that up and maybe I can glean a little information. Yeah, there's part of a nipple in there. Uh-huh. And a little bit of schmag at the top. I don't know if that's from old gas or not. This looks pretty clean. The needle looks pretty good. And the seat looks nice and clean. Need a bit of a bigger screwdriver. Huh. I don't know if that's going to show up. The guy, you know, if I remember what he said was somebody did a carb job on this. Shit. But couldn't get it running. If you look down, I don't know if it'll focus that well, but down in the bottom where the needle and seat go, there is a little chunk of something. So that might be a bit of the culprit as to why it didn't start. But I'll carry on cleaning out this carb. So I went to, forgot to turn the camera on, but I went to screw this out and noticed that the nut isn't tight. Where did I put my flashlight? There's a little bit of grubblies on the threads. That seal doesn't look terrible. I'm going to go blow this out with a little bit of brake clean and just run it through all the passages. I won't bother dropping this in the ultrasonic. Looks kind of clean, so yeah. I'll just blow it through and put it somewhat back together, and then I got to see if I can find that bowl. So I blew out all the passages. Just going to get this needle started. Back it out a quarter turn. Where did I put that? Oh, right here. Yeah, that'll still turn. Put this needle seat back in. Come on. And this, what do you call it, a pickup tube? Can't remember. Anyway, it seems to be good and clear. Looks like it takes a 1/4 inch. So that's tight. That's tight. That still works. Imagine probably has to be out something like a 1 1/4 turns. And according to what I read online, you gently seat this and then half, one, that'll be my starting point. When I pop the gas tank off it, there's just a little keyway in here. You turn this, and then you can sort of lift it and get it out of where it's sat. So I'm going to take a minute and just spritz it down, wipe it all off, get rid of all the old residue, and then I'll bring you back and we'll try to figure out how this thing goes back together. So I got most of the grime and residue cleaned off the motor. Now I'm going to get the carburetor put back on. Just need smaller fingers. Oh. Well, that was the easy one. This one will be even trickier. Come on. I'm hoping that gasket is still in. Looked to be in pretty good shape, and I didn't take anything off either of the surfaces, so with any luck it'll meet back up. Might have to take an old wrench and sort of grind it, a cheaper wrench. I might grind it flat and try bending it a bit. Ended up grabbing a screwdriver. Uh-oh. We'll have to find that. I'll find whatever dropped, and then I can put that back together. Okay, I found the little spacer washer. I figured out what this top slide is. It's the throttle. You know, most tillers have it in the handle, but this one isn't. It's on top, so as you move it back and forth, it opens and closes the carb. I can't remember what was on this nipple, or if there was something on there, because this is just a straight drain out of the carb bowl. So in sort of looking this over, I think I figured out how this primer system, choke system works. This is a suction that goes down around to the sort of a drain nipple on the carb bowl, and this goes into the top of the carburetor. And I believe, because I haven't been able to find anything specific online yet, you sort of give it 2 or 3 or more pulls and it draws up gas and shoots it into the carb. And I looked, and these are about 25 bucks. I forget, I think through marine.com. But before we put any money into it, I'm going to try to re-epoxy this nipple on, and it may just be an interim fix until I see if it runs, and then I can recommend to the well, this just pushes in, huh? Then I can recommend to the motor owner if he wants to spend the $25. There's an O-ring in there. There's an O-ring there. A bit of a plunger system. Everything there. These O-rings look to be in pretty decent shape. I don't know that this motor's got a lot of time on it for being an 88, because there's the inspector stickers are still on it, you know, inspected by, and it just doesn't appear like it's had a lot of use or abuse. So what I found was a metal refill out of a pen. Most of them are plastic. It fits nice and tight. Yeah, so if I'm careful putting it in, I'm going to cut it off and just use it to help stabilize the epoxy. I think it's got a big enough hole down the center, it'll still draw gas up. But I don't know that the epoxy, a lot of these, I don't know, polypropylene or whatever, they don't play well with epoxy no matter what, because they're sort of molded and poured and welded together. So I'm going to clean this up a bit, sort of scuff it up, use some acetone on it, cut off a wee little piece and try to just epoxy it all together, you know, goop it up. I should maybe get that number off the outside, 398816. The bottom part's all marred. But yeah, so I'll take a minute. I'm just going to scuff this up with some sandpaper and files and cut this off, clean it up. So when this pulls, so it lets fluid in through that port, or maybe it's when you pull and you push back in, when it goes on its in stroke, it runs gas up the chamber and out this line. There's a little hole. Oh, there must be a check, yeah. Looks like there's a little spring in there. So there's probably a ball valve. So when you pull and it pushes back in, it allows gas to come through to this side of the O-ring and out through the carb feed or carb charge, whatever you want to call it. We'll push that in. Fit that through. Yeah, I'll take a minute and cut this off with a little hacksaw and then clean up the end. And then bring you back and we'll try epoxying it. So I'm up against that plunger inside. Just kind of using that to make my mark. There. That'll save this refill in case I need to make another one, or for something else. So I'm just using a file on that little liner, ballpoint insert, just to sort of put some grooves or striations into the metal, because if the epoxy won't really stick to this plastic, at least it might sort of adhere into the little grooves and then sort of seal it. I'll just try to chew it up a bit, just using a little awl or pointer, just to try to put some scratches in it. And again, this is just, if I put it all back together and it runs, and it seems to run good, then I can suggest spending the $25 or whatever. I think that might be American, so unless a guy can order one through something up here. I sort of scarred all this up with some, I think it's 80 or 100 grit emery cloth. Again, just to hope to give the epoxy something to grab to. Yeah, so I'll clean those up, mix up some epoxy, and we'll glue that together, and then I think I want to have a look at the leg of the motor. Figure out why it won't come out of gear. I'm going to use not the quick setting stuff. I tried that before, and maybe it's got a different composition, I don't know. Just mixing up some of this stuff takes 24 hours, so. And it'll give me a little bit longer to play with it. I'm going to insert the plunger, and I can see metal in there. So I've got a stopper for that pin, or for the, I don't know what you want to call it, a liner. Okay. I'm keeping it away from the opening of this tube. I can always drill it out with a small drill bit if I have to. Come on, I had pre-fit everything and it fit together. The top end's got a bit of a burr on it, so I'll maybe slide it through. I can still see through the center. I'll just try to build a little, I don't know what you want to call it, a flange or a saddle. Just sort of spread it out so it seals, but also hopefully gives a little bit of adherence. And maybe just put a little bit of a shoulder at the bottom, leaving enough so I can get the gas line on it. Now very carefully try to clean up the tip. Well, it doesn't appear I got any on the plunger. And the plunger seems to move freely, so I'll take it out. I'm just going to go set this somewhere where it can solidify overnight. We'll have a look at it tomorrow. So I looked up and down the leg of this motor and didn't see anything obvious for, for disconnecting the linkage for the shift mechanism. So I popped one bolt out. I also want to take this apart anyway to have a look at this broken piece. Might be able to drill it in epoxy or do something of that nature. Yeah, I think that's just pot metal. I don't even think it's aluminum. Anyway, I got the two bolts out. And apparently I've got everything else out too. Looks like it's missing an O-ring here. I do want to pop it apart anyway at the bottom to have a look at the water pump. So forward lifts it up, and I'm assuming back or neutral pushes down on this rod. Might have to pop this apart to see what it pushes down on, down in there. Yeah, I'll get this thing in the vise. I'll pop the prop off, get it in the vise, and take this apart. I still haven't figured out if this thing's metric or not. That's 5/16 and it's pretty sloppy. This is an 8 and a 7 won't go on. I'll try a 5/16. It looks like they had a little blue Loctite on those. Better not lose that. Well, that doesn't look terrible. Grease that up a little bit before I put it back together. The plate looks in good shape. Well, now let's take apart the bottom. I want to see how that shifter works. So 5/16 is loose on the bolts, and I can't find a metric to fit it. And the 3/8 is kind of loose as well. Anyway, I'll bet there's when I pop this apart, I'll just bet there's some 90 weight grease in here, or oil. Let me see if I can find a little tub or something to put this in. Okay. I hope there's no springs in here. Oh, there we go. Yeah. A little bit of oil. Somebody's car alarm going off in the background. Well, so far those gears look to be in good shape. Not really sure what this spring affair. Oh, something just fell out and into the bucket of goo. But I don't know if it came off what I was just playing with, or there it is. A little roller bearing. I have to figure out which end it came off of. I suspect it's hard to say if it's off the gear end or if it came off this end. know if that's seized or if the spring's supposed to move. Looks like the battery's about to die. That O-ring still looks good. That's just a bushing or a seal. Little roller bearing in here, and then the seal at the back. Okay. All in all, it looks to be, bottom end looks to be in good shape. Let me go find a little flashlight or something so I can look to see. Oh, that should come through there. Okay. Yeah, so that shift rod comes through a hole that lines up with might have to slide this back on and see where that shift rod comes through or what it contacts. Because so far I'm not seeing how it shifts. Change the battery and bring you back. Yeah, well, I kind of slid it back into the top end and threw one bolt in. So this has got to spin, just look again. So it has to spin counterclockwise. And right now it's in the forward position. So I guess that must be neutral. And then it comes down and catches on that sort of little end of the spring. Not sure how this is supposed to work. So it still turns. If I put it in the forward position, the whole thing spins back. I wonder if this spring acts as sort of a clutch. Come on. It went in. Pop it off again. Just get it up on the bench and see if we can use a little screwdriver to sort of recreate that. Okay, so I'm beginning to sort of understand how this works. If I replicate the pin coming down from the shifter rod, and holding this little tip of the spring sticking up, this thing, the gear will spin somewhat freely, but this shaft doesn't turn. Whereas if you put the shifter into, I guess, into drive, which would be forward to lift it up, now this whole thing feels solid to spin. Yeah, it'll spin backwards, but the spring tightens up. Okay. The spring sort of stays tight. So when the pin's up, the lever's forward, which is sort of counterintuitive, because you think you'd put it... Oh no. When the lever's back, the pin is up. So this would work. And then when you bring it forward, oh, now I'm all messed up. So when the shifter lever or pin comes down, it engages this. Sorry, it puts it into neutral, because the gear will turn but the shaft won't. And then when the shifter lever or pin is up, then it turns the shaft. Pretty interesting little setup, just with a spring. So I'm back at it today. It's kind of a blustery, rainy day out there. I think I'll start with trying to repair this. I think to do so, I need something to make a bit of a hole. Sort of want to build a bit of a backing plate or whatever. So we'll have a hole there, a hole there. I'll take a hole saw and cut an area out so that I can bolt this, drill and bolt it to this relatively flat piece, chunk of 3/4 ply. Then after I apply the epoxy, I can let it set in place, maybe tarp strap it over here. And the reason I want the hole is because I'm going to either use this or some aluminum I have and cut a couple of little tabs to sort of bridge and epoxy them in that area. So I'll take a minute and carve this out, maybe drill the holes, and figure out what I'll use for metal to sort of strap across these two. Then I'll bring you back and we'll see how it works. So I carved a hole with a 2-inch hole saw, drilled the holes. Just do a little test fit here. And I should be able to get in there from the bottom and place a couple of, smear some epoxy in there, place a couple of tabs. Then I'm going to take this tarp strap and probably screw it in to the edges just to hold it in a little bit of compression while it sets. Don't know if it'll work, but anytime you can repair something and not spend money, that's a good day. And I like just trying things to see if they'll work. So I'm going to do some measuring and figure out, I think I'll use some aluminum I have, and trim it up and make 2 little tabs. And then we'll be back. Okay, well, I got my 2 patch pieces. They're, I don't know, 12 gauge. They were part of a bracket for something. Scuffed them all up, cut them to fit. I'm just going to buff out all the surfaces. I think I'll heat them up a bit just to bring out any debris that might be in the pores. Come on. Well, just heating up or burning off any impurities that might be on the surfaces. I want to give this the best chance I can to adhere. I'm not saying it's even going to work, but you don't know if you don't try. All right. I think I'll also take a little bit of acetone. Just clean up all the metal. I think that's about as prepped as I can get it. Okay, I got the non-quick setting JB weld mixed up. Two reasons. One, I think maybe I don't know if it's any stronger than the quick set, but I also want to make sure I have enough sort of initial tack time to get everything just where I want it. Nice thin layer there. Just while I'm at it, I may as well coat it inside there too. If it sort of ends up messy after it's all set, I'll just clean it up with a Dremel. Let me undo this and get at it a little better. Okay. Well, that feels pretty smooth. Now I think I'll install the, whoops, the tarp strap. Hopefully it doesn't split the wood. Okay, now for the, I can remember which way I cut these to fit a certain way. I think this one goes, yeah, on that side. Maybe not. Ah, that's better. And this one, I'm just using a little magnet to hold them. Should sit there. Put a little more light on it, so I've got the two braces pushed down into the epoxy. I'm just going to smear a little more epoxy in around all the edges and let it set. And if I sort of coat it with a little bit of epoxy as well, it'll maybe prevent some rusting. Well, good. Leave that overnight and we'll see what it looks like tomorrow.